Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a great holiday. So today we've got a pretty interesting one. You see it right here. Do not buy Retrobit products. Why? Why do you ask? Well, I've been covering this company quite a bit lately. They've been putting out some neat stuff, a lot of cool controllers, the Super Retrocade plug-and-play system that I've been speaking very highly of. They put out their licensed Super Nintendo and NES cartridges just recently. They do a lot of cool stuff, and it seems like they've really been stepping up their game as of late. Typically, when I cover a product or a company, I get a lot of messages. Say I do, like when the Super Nintendo Classic Edition came out, I received so many messages, stop covering this, we don't care about the Super Nintendo. But hey, a lot of people were interested, and I was sharing information. And it's the same thing with Retrobit. I've been doing a lot of Retrobit videos as of late, some informative stuff, some unboxings, reviews, etc. And I've had a lot of hate mail, but not the kind of hate mail that you would think. Not people saying, hey, we've had enough of Retrobit, stop covering them. No, the messages that I have been receiving as of late are, hey, don't promote this company. Don't promote this thieving, scamming company. I'm like, what? What you talking about? I've received a ton of messages, private messages, comments that have gone to spam, emails, people saying, stop it, no more Retrobit. This company is not a good company. They're clearly in the wrong. They're doing some scandalous stuff. So me, I'm like, what are they talking about? These guys make controllers. They make plug-and-play systems. Everything they're doing is licensed. Or so I thought. So, what is the issue? Let's go ahead and take a look at this link of a little press release informational piece that is discussing the issue that has been brought to my attention. So here we go. LibRetro, RetroArch, an appeal to game journalists about Retrobit and about the new retro emulation industry in general. I will put a link in the description so you can peep this article out. It is quite lengthy. There's a lot of just crazy stuff going on in here. But essentially, the beginning of this is saying, hey, game journalists, other members of the press, they're desperate. They're beyond desperate at this point. And they're asking for, help in this ongoing problem. So what is this? Well, essentially they're talking about laws and licenses surrounding open source code, GPLs, TiVoization, all this crazy stuff, which, a big part of that was, newsworthy, a couple years back with Hyperkin, with the Retron 5, using RetroArch and using cores for emulators that are not commercially licensed. So you would think with all the negative press that Hyperkin got, that other companies would not be doing the same. But Hyperkin still sells the Retron 5. Hyperkin pretty much does not care what anybody has to say about that. They're going to use other people's emulators without license, that are not commercially licensed, and not with without striking deals, all that kind of stuff. So from what we are reading here, in this, like I said, you can peep this out. Link is going to be in the description. But they go over a history of companies who have been deceitful, who have scammed, who have lied, who have used and abused these licenses and, open source, code and whatnot, unlawfully, illegally, against, the non-commercial licenses and whatnot. I'm not a lawyer. Don't expect me to really know all the nitty-gritty on the terminology of all this stuff. But they do go over the history with the Hyperkin Retron 5. The Cyber Gadget Retro Freak was the same thing, essentially the same thing as the Retron 5. They have a lot of correspondence in this documentation they have here talking about that. The Retro Pack, I don't even know what that is. And a few others. And then we get down to, the latest in this situation, 2017. the Retrobit Super Retrocade, which I have been heavily promoting and I have been really enjoying, to be quite honest. So here we go. In their message here, they are saying, in the latest situation, just recently we've been contacted by Retrobit. To be more precise, one of our team members, Mr. Suarez, was contacted in the past. This is the latest email we have received back from Retrobit, just mere weeks before they started selling their latest product. So from what I'm gathering, there are other emails and other messages, but this is the latest, and they don't have everything else published here. So essentially, this is the email from Retrobit, the latest one they got. I hope all is well. A quick introduction. I am the marketing manager for NX and our house brand Retrobit. In the past, you were in contact with Andres Koros regarding the possibly usage of RetroArch for our plug-and-play consoles, with the caveat that when using open source software, we would need to give credit, then share any updates done to the original code back to the community in the event they want to build upon it. Since then, Andres had left the company, and we recently released the Super Retrocade, which I believe operates off of RetroArch. So this representative, this marketing manager from Retrobit, they're saying they believe it operates off of RetroArch. It's kind of funny that, wouldn't they just say it does operate? I mean, if you're contacting LibRetro and you're saying, I believe it operates, that shows that there's a shadow of a doubt in that person's mind that it's actually using it. That's kind of strange. The terminology used here, or the wording anyway, is kind of strange. But to continue, we would like to provide the rightful credit to RetroArch and disclose the emulator and request the source code. They can retrieve it through a customer service page in Retrobit with proof of purchase and waiver of liability forms. As I mentioned in my previous email, our former product development manager, Andres Q, left the company in the middle of development, leaving Ron, who is copied, and myself to finish the product with a very aggressive timeline to launch. So if you were part of the team that finished this product, and you believe it operates off of RetroArch, that's kind of strange, but whatever. To continue, we were not aware of this situation, but want to work with you to find a successful solution. We are a small company that competes directly with Hyperkin, and like you, we want to expand the retro gaming to its fullest potential and support the community. Kind of crazy there. So that's their latest email. Who knows what the other conversations were back and forth, if there were any others, supposedly, or if there is any more recent messages, who knows. This little news brief, press release type, public service announcement, whatever you want to call this, is just from a few days ago. So LibRetro goes on to say, so all we know in this instance is that they are using RetroArch. As long as source code is being provided, as long as the license is being followed, the GPL version 3, that means no TiVoization. So TiVoization, there's a history behind that. I'm not going to go into all that, but TiVoization, essentially, if I understand correctly, is when a company uses open source software and creates a product that kind of locks it in place to where the end user cannot change anything. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's from my understanding. Like you cannot access, I guess, the source code, or you can't update that software. It's locked in place to whatever that source was, and the device is designed that way. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but that's kind of what my understanding of it is. So they're saying that would be no issue, but however, here's where it gets troubling. They do not know themselves what emulators it is using. That's crazy. If Retrobit doesn't know what emulators they're using, that seems kind of shady, because of course they know what emulators they're using. They developed the product, unless they just simply outsourced it to another company and said, hey, this is what we want it to do. Just do it. We don't care how you do it. Just bam, package it up for us. Which I don't think they had that little involvement in it. That doesn't make much sense. But so they're saying, so again, with contractor company was responsible for this cobbled together software. Why does this keep happening? How come none of the licensees, Capcom, Data East, Jalico, etc., were aware of this? Why wouldn't these companies be aware of this? Because essentially what Capcom Data East does is, Retrobit, probably contacted them. Hey, we're doing this product. We partnered with you in the past. We would like to do this. Is that cool? This is the percentages. This is, negotiation, whatever. Because, of course, Capcom Data East and all them are going to get money from each unit sold. They're going to get some kind of royalties from that. But beyond that, Capcom Data East, these companies typically, from my understanding and beliefs, is they really don't have much to do with these kind of products. It's just like, yeah, you can use this, yeah, bam, and do the negotiations, and then Retrobit or whomever is working with them, they're the ones that are responsible for putting everything together. I'm not sure if there's any kind of quality control that Capcom goes over. I'm sure maybe, prototype, final product type thing. Hey, Capcom, this is where we're at. Peep it out. You sign off on it. Boom. Yes. I'm sure Capcom's not looking over all the source code and licenses and all that stuff. Just seeing, oh, okay, our games run on it. Cool. You're representing our games the way we like. You would hope anyway. So then they go on to say, this is where it's troubling. It's, again, just a cheap ARM system on a chip, and they admit to us over email that it is using RetroArch, but they cannot tell us which cores are being used because they do not know. All of the emulator cores available through RetroArch, which provide SNES, Arcade, Genesis emulation, and which could conceivably run on this hardware, are all distinctly non-commercial. They're talking about SNES 9X, Final Burn Alpha, or older versions of MAME 2000, 2003, etc., Genesis Plus GX. Those emulators cannot be sold, period. So again, we have the very same issue here as we have had with Hyperkin and Cyber Gadget. But instead of waiting until they have determined with us that this is not an issue, they start selling it anyway. They are demoralized, pissed off, all this kind of stuff. Ever since the NES, Super Nintendo Mini, this kind of activity has been going on and has been accelerating. Entrepreneurs and certain publishers are having dollar signs in their eyes. Games are being played with us and other members of the emulation scene by various parties. In this blog post, I've probably left out a fair few other companies as well, and we are simply getting sick and tired of this abuse. This is hugely demoralizing and demotivating and makes us almost unwilling anymore to continue with it. Stuff like this is hugely damaging to the goodwill of the open source community. If open source authors continue to find their licenses and rights trampled upon by a couple of entrepreneurs with the sole intent just to make money, and these same entrepreneurs and their business partners don't care about doing due diligence and making sure they are in the clear, developers are going to stop contributing to open source projects altogether. The knowledge economy dies in doing so, leaving us all with yet more products cobbled together from various disparate sources with no greater aspirations beyond just making a buck. So they have a bunch of posts down here, some other external sources, and just a lot of crazy stuff. Very interesting read. Definitely recommend going through this if you're interested in this kind of thing. But there you have it. The latest controversy. So what do you guys think with this, with Retrobit? Do not buy their products. Continue to support them. You need more evidence. This is a tough one because I definitely understand where LibRetro is coming from with being demoralized and, these developers, people who are working on these open source projects that are providing them for free usage to the public. It can be demotivating. I am very certain of that. If somebody is taking your product and selling it, then yes. Now, you can compare this to a lot of other things. And there's a lot of legal gray areas and issues concerning emulation and whatnot. You have people, eBay, it's notorious. You see people selling, RetroPie setups and things like that. And that may be viewed in a negative fashion. But I don't think those are the kind of people that, these companies doing these projects are really going after. It's these big companies, Retrobit and Hyperkin, who are, taking advantage of them, where it's not necessarily about the money, it's more so about you're not supposed to sell this. Now, if you create your own emulator and whatnot, that's on you. Do you, you sell your products how you want, but they're looking at it, it's companies, corporations profiting off of open source work. Now, there's a lot of haters out there who will say anybody, that's messing with emulation or showcasing anything, there's a lot of knuckleheads out there that'll be like, oh, you're profiting off of this. Screw you guys. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a big time company who is taking these licenses and packaging it for retail, the retail marketplace, and selling products nationwide, countrywide, throughout the world, that kind of thing. Which it's strange that, it's almost like these companies know they shouldn't be doing this. I don't think they're blind to it, but I think they look at it like, well, who's going to stop us? Who's gonna have any kind of legal action? This is emulation. This, it's a gray area. It's kind of a murky thing out there in the wild on the internet. These emulators that have been developed over the years and all that. Who's going to do anything about it? I think that might be part of the issue. Take it for what you want. Look into this further before you make any kind of judgments against Retrobit or Hyperkin. These companies continue to put out these products. They continue to put out new products, hardware clones, emulation devices, plug and play systems, all that kind of stuff. To me, it's really hard to jump up and down and say boycott these people. Do not buy the products. I'm still going to be buying Retrobit products. That's just me. Am I part of the problem? I don't care if people think I'm part of the problem or not. I'm just one person who has a very small reach as far as an audience goes. I've enjoyed Retrobit stuff. Is it disappointing that they knowingly are doing this? Sure, if they're knowingly doing this, then sure. But I don't know the full story. I haven't seen all the correspondence back and forth, and that's not necessarily any of my business to see. With the message that we see on LibRetro's website, it could be taken several different ways. When I first read that email, I thought, oh, well, it sounds like they're trying to do right. They're trying to communicate properly and explain the situation and trying to make sure they do their due diligence. I don't know when that email was dated. There's no information on that blog post stating that, so I'm not 100%. It is what it is. I'm just happy that games from our past continue to be preserved and be available one which way or another. Is it right or wrong what these companies are doing? That's for you to judge. I'm just bringing this out there, pointing you to the information, because a lot of people were kind of harping on me about this. Why are you doing this? Why are you promoting these guys? They're scum. But I've also had people in the past say that I am scum for, showcasing emulation or making money off of YouTube, showing, certain things with RetroPie, RetroArch, Attract Mode, all those kind of things. So I've been on the receiving end of that as well, and it's kind of just ridiculous. Basement dwellers and their little circle jerk got nothing better to do but attack people. Hey, it is what it is. Is this an all-out attack on Retrobit, Hyperkin, all these companies? That's for the community to decide. I gave you the information I got, gave you my viewpoints. Hope you appreciate it. Check out the links in the description for more information. Smash that like button. Hey, if you hate me and you dislike what I just spoke about or any of my opinions or views, go ahead and hit that dislike as well. It doesn't really matter. You interacted with my video and it is appreciated. Throw out a comment. Subscribe if you have not done so already. You got to be subscribed and hit that notification bell if you want to hit the dislike on all my videos. So help me out. Appreciate it, guys. With that said, I will catch y'all next time. Boom!